At 16 years old, Emily stood in front of her bedroom mirror, holding a pair of scissors. Her thick brown hair cascaded over her shoulders, but she couldn't stop thinking about what it would feel like to shave it all off. She loved the idea of the freedom and simplicity it would bring. Taking a deep breath, she snipped a small lock of hair. But she knew she couldn't go further without talking to her parents. That evening, she sat at the dinner table, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her plate. She glanced at her parents, trying to gauge their mood. Finally, she mustered the courage to speak. "Mom, Dad, I want to shave my head," Emily said, her voice steady despite her nerves. Her mother looked up, startled. "Why on earth would you want to do that?" she asked. I really like the idea of it. It feels liberating," Emily explained, trying to convey her enthusiasm. Her father frowned, shaking his head. "Emily, you're too young to make such a drastic decision. Besides, your hair is beautiful. Why would you want to get rid of it?" "It's just hair, Dad. It will grow back," she argued, but her parents remained unconvinced. Months passed, and every time Emily brought up the subject, the answer was the same. A firm no. Frustrated but determined, she threw herself into her studies. She wanted to become a doctor, and she knew that achieving this goal would require all her focus and dedication. 5 years later, at 21, Emily was deep into her medical studies. Despite her busy schedule, the desire to shave her head never left her. One evening, during a rare family dinner, she decided to try again. "Mom, Dad, I've been thinking about it for years now. I still want to shave my head," Emily said. Her mother sighed. "Emily, you're an adult now, but I still don't understand why this is so important to you." "It's just something I've always wanted to do. It's part of who I am," Emily replied, hoping they would finally understand. But her father shook his head once more. "It's not practical, Emily, especially not for a doctor. Patients expect a certain image." Emily felt a pang of frustration. She knew she needed to find another way to take control of her own life. One night, while researching different career paths, she stumbled upon information about the military. The discipline and structure appealed to her, and she realized it might also give her the freedom she craved. After careful consideration, she applied to join the Army. When she received her acceptance letter, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. She broke the news to her parents over breakfast. "I'm joining the Army," Emily announced. Her father dropped his fork. "The Army? Are you sure about this?" "Yes, I'm sure," Emily said with conviction. "I've thought about it a lot, and I think it's the right path for me." Her mother looked worried. "But Emily, why the Army? You were studying to become a doctor." "This seems so sudden." "I know it seems sudden, but it's not. I've been feeling this way for a long time. The Army will give me the structure and discipline I need, and I can still pursue a medical career within the military." "It's the best of both worlds," Emily explained. "But it's dangerous," her father argued. "Why take such a risk?" "Dad, being a doctor is also demanding and comes with its own risks. This is something I need to do for myself. I want to prove to myself that I can handle it," Emily replied. Her parents exchanged worried glances, but Emily continued. "I know you don't understand right now, but please trust me. This is something I need to do." Her mother sighed. "We just want what's best for you, Emily. We want you to be safe and happy, and I will be." "I promise," Emily said reassuringly. The days passed quickly, and before long, the promised day for Emily to leave for the Army arrived. Her parents drove her to the induction center. the car ride filled with a mixture of silence and sporadic conversation. As they arrived, her father turned to her. "Emily, I still don't fully understand why you're doing this, but I want you to know that we're proud of you. Just promise you'll stay safe." "I promise, Dad," Emily said, hugging him tightly. "I love you both so much." Her mother, holding back tears, hugged her next. "Be careful, Emily. We'll be thinking of you every day." "I will, Mom." "I love you," Emily said, feeling a lump in her throat. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Emily walked into the induction center, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. She joined the line of new recruits. The official told them that everyone must shave their heads. And Emily saw girls crying who did not want to shave their heads. But Emily had a feeling of joy and enjoyment. She watched as one by one, the recruits stepped up to the barber's chair. "Everyone must shave their heads," the official announced sternly. "This is a mandatory part of your induction." As Emily waited her turn, she saw the anxiety and tears of some of the other recruits. She overheard snippets of their conversations. "I don't want to do this," one girl whispered to her friend. "It's just hair, it'll grow back," the friend replied, though she didn't sound convinced herself. Emily, however, felt a thrill of anticipation. This was something she had wanted for so long, and now it was finally happening. When her turn came, she stepped up to the chair with a confident smile. The barber looked at her and said, "Ready?" "Absolutely," Emily replied with a grin. The clippers buzzed to life, and as they made the first pass over her head, she felt a wave of exhilaration. Hair fell to the floor in clumps, and with each pass, she felt lighter, freer. When it was over, she looked at herself in the mirror, running a hand over her smooth scalp. "How do you feel?" the barber asked. "Amazing," Emily said, smiling broadly. After the haircut, they were led to a supply room where they were issued their army clothes and other essentials. An officer began handing out uniforms, boots, and personal items. "Here are your fatigues," the officer said, handing Emily a neatly folded set of camouflage clothing. "You'll also need these," he added, giving her a pair of sturdy combat boots. Emily took the items and moved down the line, where another officer handed her a duffel bag, a canteen, and various other supplies. "Make sure you keep track of all your gear," the officer instructed. "You'll be responsible for everything issued to you." "Got it," Emily said, nodding. Next, they were shown to the barracks. Emily found her assigned bunk, a simple bed with a small locker at the foot. She stowed her gear and sat on the bed, feeling a mix of exhaustion and excitement. Her bunkmate, Sarah, who had also shaved her head, sat down next to her. "Hey, I'm Sarah," she said, extending a hand. "Emily," she replied, shaking Sarah's hand. "Nice to meet you. How are you feeling about all this?" Sarah asked, gesturing to the room and their new surroundings. "I love it," Emily said. "I've wanted to shave my head for years, and now I finally got to do it. Plus, the structure and discipline here are exactly what I need." Sarah nodded. "It's definitely a big change, but I think it's going to be good for us." As they settled in, a drill sergeant entered the barracks. "Listen up, recruits. My name is Sergeant Davis, and I'll be your drill sergeant. You follow my orders and we'll get along just fine." "Understood?" "Yes, Sergeant." The recruits shouted in unison. "Good. Now lights out at 2100 hours. I expect everyone up and ready at 0500 sharp. No exceptions. Dismissed." As the sergeant left, Emily and Sarah exchanged glances, This is it, Sarah said with a small smile. The real deal. Yep, Emily agreed. Let's get some rest. Over the next few weeks, Emily threw herself into her training. She faced physical challenges she had never imagined, but each obstacle only made her more determined. The early mornings, the grueling workouts, the intense drills, all of it made her feel more alive than she ever had before. One evening, after a particularly tough day, Emily sat with Sarah and a few other recruits in the mess hall. They were all tired but in high spirits. "Emily, you were amazing today during the obstacle course." One of the recruits, Jake, said, "You really crushed it." "Thanks, Jake," Emily replied, grinning. "I just kept pushing myself." "It feels great to see the progress." "You're an inspiration to us all," Sarah added. "You never give up, and it shows." As the months went by, Emily's parents saw the positive changes in her during their phone calls. Here they heard the pride and fulfillment in her voice and began to understand her decision more deeply. "Emily, I have to admit, I was worried when you first told us about joining the army," her father said during one call. "But hearing how happy you are, I think you made the right choice." "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot to me," Emily said, smiling. "I miss you guys, but I'm really happy here." "We miss you too, sweetheart," her mother added, "but we can hear how much this means to you. We're proud of you." "Thanks, Mom." "I love you both so much," Emily said, feeling a sense of warmth and gratitude. As Emily continued her training, she found joy and fulfillment in her new life. She excelled in her classes, gaining respect from her instructors and peers. Her confidence grew with each passing day, and she felt more and more at home in the military environment. One night, as she lay in her bunk, she thought back to the conversation with her parents and the journey that had led her here. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction and contentment, knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be.